war between both Universe 7 and Universe 11 continues as the final 4 minutes draw closer to zero, as Jiren reveals his true power in hopes of defeating Goku, Vegeta, Android 17, and Frieza, as the fate of both universes are on the line in this climatic showdown. But will our heroes be able to pull through, or is this truly going to be the end of Universe 7 as we draw ever so closer towards the conclusion of the Tournament of Power? What is going on, Dragon Ball fans? Welcome to my Dragon Ball Super episode 127 review entitled The Approaching Wall, the Final Barrier of Hope, leading into next week's exciting episode of Dragon Ball Super episode 128 as we draw ever so closer towards the end of Dragon Ball Super, with only 3 episodes remaining until the conclusion on Dragon Ball Super episode 131, premiering on March 25th, 2018, in which promises to lead us into an action-packed conclusion, as recently we've received spoilers for the upcoming episodes for Dragon Ball Super episode 128 and 129, in which promises to bring us an action-packed conclusion which will hopefully wrap the entire series up in a very logical and meaningful way as we make our way towards Dragon Ball Super episode 128 premiering next week, as this episode was indefinitely the highlight for Android 17 in stepping up and providing his barrier to shield Goku and Vegeta from inevitable danger, because what Jiren did in this episode would be easily regarded as being not only impressive but very terrifying in the idea that all of this power that Jiren has been hiding this entire time is now beginning to manifest onto the surface. And again, if you guys like the Dragon Ball content that I provide on this channel, then make sure you guys punch that subscribe button with notifications enabled to be the first to receive all the latest in Dragon Ball content and be a part of the Dragon Ball squad. And also don't forget to follow me on these social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, to stay connected with me at all times, hashtag Dragon Ball Squad, as we roll through Dragon Ball Super episode 127 with a very impressive showcase from Jiren. And I'm very happy that finally we get to see more character development from Jiren, because this entire time the fandom has been complaining that Jiren needs a backstory, Jiren needs more of a reason as to expressing his means of competing in this tournament. And I think this episode pretty much established the fundamentals as to where they want to go with the character, and especially now knowing more or less what Jiren is all about, we get to have a better understanding as to where he stands, and more importantly how strong he is as we go into this episode. But needless to say, we kick off Dragon Ball Super episode 127 exactly where we left off, with Jiren having to power up. Now, as soon as Jiren begins to power up, even the Omni Kings are saying that it looks like Jiren's on fire because his aura, he has an aura within an aura within an aura. And the first person to actually acknowledge and say something directly to Jiren was Vegeta, and saying, well, so you finally decided to get serious. And it's because of this that Jiren's aura completely just vanishes, and it doesn't look like he's going to be fighting with this aura, but Vegeta slowly begins to step out. So as he emerges from the crater, he begins to trash talk Jiren, and I don't know if this was a good idea, but it's as a result, because of this, we see how Jiren says to Vegeta that he can't beat him. And of course, Vegeta gets mad, transforms into an Ultra Super Saiyan Blue, and it's because of this Goku, Vegeta, and 17 begin to take charge in rushing Jiren directly. Now, mind you, at this point, Jiren is fighting 3 of them, so it's so impressive to see how even with 17, Goku, and Vegeta, Jiren is just casually just going blow for blow with all of them. He punches Vegeta into the cliff, he elbows 17 in the face, he kicks Goku in the face, and he begins to pursue Vegeta. Now, I really enjoyed the premise of how Vegeta, despite him being depleted on energy, despite him being tired, he uses the final flash, 17 is firing shots, and credit to 17 for saving Vegeta, because there was this one scene where Jiren looked like he was about to just really go in on Vegeta, and 17 pretty much shoulder tackled him out the way, and he got the receiving end of that kick that Jiren was going to ultimately deliver to Vegeta. And we see how Jiren is more or less focused with Vegeta at first, and then we see Goku go into his Kaioken mode. Now, with Jiren having to fight off Kaioken Goku, he's noticing on the side that Vegeta is firing energy shots, and it's remarkable to see how quickly Jiren is able to adapt and being aware of his environment. And still, even as he fights Vegeta, he's trash talking him, and he delivers this game-changing punch to the gut that not only sends Vegeta off flying and knocking him out of his Ultra Super Saiyan Blue form, but as he goes off flying into the distance, Goku unleashes his Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Kamehameha, and as he fires down at Jiren, Jiren fires up, and he completely just disintegrates the Kamehameha, knocking Goku on down onto the ground. Now, with that being said, and Jiren is not only blocking off punches, but before knocking off Vegeta, he said, "I see how you beat Topo now." And 17, remember that, preview image that we all saw last week with Jiren's back having to be exposed because his suit was ripped? Well, that was actually because of 17. 17 teleported behind Jiren, and Jiren was surprised when he turned around, because the minute he turned around, we see 17 let off this thunderous shot with this energy blast, and it's because of this the entire arena shook. But keep in mind, 17 was down when the smoke cleared, and as he stands back up, I mean, everyone is tired at this point. You can't really sit there and say, well, these guys really do have energy to continue, because as they were fighting Jiren, it was very notable that all of them were extremely tired, and 17 begins to unleash a barrage of energy blast, and 17 realizes that he could not use more or less of his energy to take down Jiren, because Jiren was completely unaffected by everything that had happened. And 17 says to Jiren, "Wait, I'll hit you with something good, just you wait." So he's trying to outmaneuver him. He gets back to Goku, and Goku congratulates 17 to finally, figuring out a way how to land a hit on Jiren. Essentially, especially with Jiren having to more or less be a bit aware as to what's happening, but he doesn't seem to be on the offensive as much. There was a certain moment to where he was just standing there casually looking at them, and all three of them, Goku, Vegeta, and 17, are regrouping towards the middle of the episode and trying to figure out what to do, because obviously, even with their combined effort, it doesn't really make a difference. And Vegeta, again, goes back into Ultra Super Saiyan Blue after, him and Jiren have an exchange of words, and it just baffles me as to how much Vegeta is able to go back and forth into this form, despite him having to be bled out on energy, because after everything he went through, logically, he shouldn't even be standing. However, the fight continues. Now, 17 was standing in the background as Goku and Vegeta were trying, and that's the key word here, trying to get the best of Jiren, but it failed. 17 was in the background just pretty much trying to figure out a way how to catch Jiren, and he let out a few energy blasts, but then Jiren notices, and as he's in pursuit of 17, 17 puts out like, a dozen barriers, and Jiren just breaks through every single one of them. So now as Jiren is pursuing 17, Goku and Vegeta are pursuing Jiren. So what's awesome about this, there was one shot, it happened so quick. There was one shot that happened where Jiren was holding out his energy blast in attacking 17, and with one hand, as he's holding out his energy blast to stop 17, he kicks off and elbows Vegeta casually, just without even trying, without even acknowledging them. And then from each corner, Goku fires off the Kamehameha, 17 fires off a shot, Vegeta fires off the Final Flash from all corners, and with this barrier that Jiren puts out, nothing works. And it's because of this overwhelming heat that gets the best of Goku, Vegeta, and 17, which leads into a result of them having to get knocked out. So Vegeta's on the ground, Goku's on the ground, and they've been knocked out of their Super Saiyan Blue forms. There is not much left for them to do because they're extremely tired, they're extremely beat up, and they know that they can't really continue. And of course, the writing aspect was a bit different in this episode. Of course, if they never introduced Vegito in Dragon Ball before, this would have been a great time. But then out of nowhere, I will say this, Frieza comes out of nowhere and he kicks Jiren in the face. He gets him, but then as soon as Vegeta and Goku notice this, Frieza throws down with Jiren. So Frieza is bucking shots, he's throwing haymakers, and he's missing everything, and Jiren is just looking at him like, who the hell are you? And what I really loved about Frieza in this episode was he was so damn aggressive. He was so angry. He goes into his golden form and he begins to just let out a shot to try to go after Frieza, and then out of nowhere, Jiren stops him with his eyes, and with one punch, he knocks Frieza out of his golden form. It was remarkable because none of us even expected to see Golden Frieza pursue Jiren. But he had the balls to say, you know what, screw this, I'm still gonna fight you regardless of losing. So I want you guys to take into account one thing. Golden Frieza, the same Frieza that beat Super Saiyan Blue, and as strong as he is in the show now, got KO'd in one punch. That was just incredible. And what's amazing to me was finally we get a reveal of Jiren's background. Now, Belmont says to 17, what will you do if you survive? What will be your wish? Tell me your wish. And that's when Belmont says, he further explains to, 17 as to why Jiren is so obsessed with strength. And this is where we go into the backstory. Now, apparently, Jiren's family was killed by a bad person, and he was rescued by a man who became his master, who he trained under, and as a result from this, they gained a bunch of, comrades who fought with him against that bad person who killed his family, and all in all, as they all fought, they ended up dying too, Jiren's master, of course. Now, as a result from this, as a result from Jiren's family getting massacred, and of course, I didn't even expect for a story like this to even come about, as translated by Herms, once we saw the story of Jiren as a kid come about, he was like a happy, playful little kid, and once his family got murked, that was it. And this reminded me so much of the story of Oob when he was a poor kid or whatever, but Jiren witnessed his family get massacred before his very eyes, and that changed him. That changed him as a kid, because from there, he vowed to protect, and he vowed to stop the person that pretty much killed his family. And so by the end of all of this, Jiren vowed that he was going to protect, because he was alone. He had nobody left, and he was betrayed by those he trusted. And Jiren realized that through strength alone could you achieve justice. And that's why apparently he is so fascinated with the idea of strength, because it was the only thing he had after being betrayed, after having to be left alone. He had nothing. This kid had nothing. And even Toppo during this episode bows his head because he knows everything that, Jiren has been through. And that motivated Jiren to become as strong as he is now. And as a reply, 17 says, "So that's your wish. I thought you were some sort of like a killer or something like that." But his backstory really is for him to fight as a means of justice because of his strength and what it represents, because this whole time he never had anything to begin with. He lost his family, everyone betrayed him, and he had nothing. And if you're curious, this reminded me so much of Batman, because I grew up on Batman, and the minute I heard about this, I said, wait a minute, Bruce Wayne? So really, in reality, Jiren is Bruce Wayne. And, what's remarkable about this is the fact that you kind of understand where he's coming from, in the sense of not having anybody at all. And a lot of people can relate to that, because in certain situations, most people can say they have nobody to turn to, because in real life, they don't have anybody of their own to call family or even a friend. So as a result from this, Jiren begins to unleash a massive blast. 17 comes in, just as we saw in the preview, and he begins to hold off the blast. And Goku and Vegeta, weirdly, were just laying there. They were laying there, they're tired. Goku's trying to get up, he's on his face, Vegeta's on his back, and 17 this whole time is pushing and pushing and pushing. And you get to see like these walls, these barrier walls, trying to hold it back. And Goku tells 17 to run, but he holds off the blast anyway. And even 18 tells him to run away. Don't do this, you're gonna get destroyed. And little by little, as we see 17's barrier begin to diminish, Goku and Vegeta look up, and now 17, he looks behind him, and at that given point, he smiles. And just then, we see how he unleashes like this energy to where it protects Goku and Vegeta, sort of like mini barriers. And the second he unleashes these little mini barriers, he accepts his fate, and that's the end of 17. And I really did appreciate the way they told this story, because 17 knew he couldn't do it. 17 knew that he couldn't continue anymore, and as a means, he gave Goku and Vegeta energy to protect them while he took the blast head on, and that was pretty much the end of him. And even Frieza at that given point, Frieza was out cold, Goku was out cold, Vegeta was out cold, and by the end, everything erupted and there was nothing left, and thus we see only the remnants of where Goku and Vegeta and Frieza were, to where their barriers pretty much were busted, and as the rocks begin to break under them, they go down a flight of rocks, they hit the ground, but weirdly enough, they stand back up. This is the one thing I did not like, was the fact that towards the end, they stand back up, but this entire time, it's like they were down on the ground. It's like, what happened here, You couldn't have got up and ran away during the point of, Jiren attacking. That really was kind of wonky to me, because the minute they hit the ground and they stand back up, I'm just like, wait a minute, couldn't you have stood up before, but instead you choose to, stand up now? Even though they collapsed and they dropped on down to the ground, by the very end of this, only 3 minutes remain, and 17, as a result, blew himself up. And the Great Priest announces that Jiren will get no penalty because 17 killed himself. And as a result, he is eliminated / wrung out, but as a means of killing himself. So Android 17 is dead, but as a means of self-destruction. And Jiren will not be penalized for that because of as his means of what he did. So in case you guys were wondering, 17 is dead, and now the only ones left are the current heroes that we've always, have come to appreciate in Dragon Ball: Goku, Vegeta, and Frieza, and now it is only down to them, as by the end, Goku collapses and the only other person left standing in front of Jiren is Vegeta. But in the end, I would like to know what you guys have to say down in the comment section below. What are your overall thoughts for this episode? What are your overall thoughts for 17 providing the barrier in helping Goku and Vegeta, in seeing Frieza go MIA, in seeing more or less where Jiren came from in terms of his backstory, how strong he actually was, because this episode displayed such dominance from his character standpoint that I really wish the series didn't end the way it's going to, because if there were to be another arc, they could explore more or less more as to Jiren's origins, Jiren's background, even his training per se. So post your comments down below, let me know what you all think. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you guys love Dragon Ball and are new to this channel, don't forget to punch that subscribe button, guys. Turn on all notifications, that way you guys can get all of my videos on your mobile devices and on your desktops by making sure you guys enable all videos on the channel. Follow me at Twitter, guys. I will leave a link down below for that. Snapchat, Instagram, all that good jazz. And also, guys, make sure you guys tune back in for the predictions video and the breakdown, as we are going to more or less discuss more of Jiren's background, what we expect to see in the upcoming episode, and we have a lot to talk about in that regard, so make sure you guys tune back on the channel for that. Thank you all so very much for watching once again. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys down in the comment section below. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.